Hey, what's going on everyone? In this video, I've been doing a comparison of the AVerLife ExtremeVision 0272 USB media player by AVerMedia up against the Western Digital USB media player, their third generation. Obviously, right off the bat, you guys will notice that the AVerMedia, the ExtremeVision it's really big, it's huge compared to the Western Digital media player. It's significantly smaller. It's really compact. In fact, if you want to get a better idea of as to how small it is, this is my Nexus 4 phone, so you can see that my phone is just slightly, a few millimeters longer. So it gives you an idea just how humongous the ExtremeVision is. So you notice that the Western Digital remote is a lot smaller, a lot compact, and well, it looks simpler, and it is actually simpler and easier to use. Whereas the ExtremeVision remote is just a cluttered, clunky mess. And to be honest, considering how limited the ExtremeVision is in functionality when it's on, I don't know if you know why they need this many buttons. It doesn't have that many functions built into the USB player, but we'll get into that when I plug it into the TV. One thing you guys might notice is that I had this adapter sitting up here. This is the wireless adapter that came with the ExtremeVision out of the box. You cannot use a third-party wireless adapter to get Wi-Fi signal with the ExtremeVision. You must use this that comes out of the box. So if it breaks or something, you're gonna have to order another one from AVerMedia, whereas the wireless adapter for the third generation USB player from Western Digital is built in. So, you know, in terms of just general look and design, the Western Digital is significantly better. Let's go over some of the ports and stuff. So at the front of the ExtremeVision, you got like the LED light that, you know, shines when it's on. It turns like a neon blue just in this little corner here. On the top, you got nothing. On the bottom, you got nothing. On the right, you have nothing. At the back, this is where everything is. You know, you got your component cables, optical audio, HDMI output, two USB ports, one here, eSATA port, Ethernet, and DC in for power. And on the right, you have nothing. So the USB ports are all on the back, and there's only two. So if you want Wi-Fi, well, one is being taken up by your Wi-Fi adapter, right? So that means you only have one, but even then, if you're trying to plug in a USB stick and play back a video or pictures or something, you have to reach behind it. If it's in a TV stand, that's a really annoying design. As for the third generation Western Digital media player, compact design, you have the remote sensor at the front. There's some lights that light up telling you that it's on, and another one that tells you when a USB stick is plugged in. You have a USB port at the front, which is very, very, very convenient. At the top, you have nothing. At the bottom, you have the reset button, which is really tough to see right there. And of course, you have these little brackets. And in case you're wondering what this does, it's basically for wall mounting. My friend, what he did is he wall mounted his, so the front faces like this. His TV wall mount was resting against it like that, and the TV would obviously be covering it like that. The remote for the Western Digital media player, it doesn't need a direct signal. You can even point the remote to the ceiling and it'll still catch the signal. So that's how he's able to use the remote even though it's behind the TV. On the right, you have nothing. On the back is where practically the rest of the ports are. DC in for power, optical audio, Ethernet port for wired internet connection, HDMI port, the second USB port, and of course your components for audio video output. Output. And on the right, you have nothing. So before we continue any further, I want to give you guys a heads up that I have done an individual review for each USB player. Basically, like for example, the Western Digital media player has a lot of apps to go through. I try to do as much as I could in that video review, whereas in this comparison video, I just can't even go through even two of them because it'll make this video too long. So if you want a more in-depth analysis, check out those video reviews. You can find the link to each in the description below. And also, both of them do support DLNA playback, and of course it connects to your Windows network like right here. So basically the interface for this is the AVerMedia ExtremeVision. The interface is kind of dull and boring. It's simple, which is a good thing. Simplicity is usually a good thing. The setup menu has your very generic options, you know, language, audio, video, etc. I'm not gonna go into too much detail because it'd make this video way too long. But speaking of firmware, I mentioned this in the review as well, that firmware upgrade broke Wi-Fi. So even though I'm using the official wireless adapter that came with the AVerMedia USB player, the Wi-Fi just stopped working after a firmware upgrade. Now, AVerMedia has released another upgrade to fix that Wi-Fi issue, but it doesn't do anything. It didn't fix it, and even then, there hasn't been an update from AVerMedia since then. So what else do we have? We have BitTorrent set up, but for some reason I can never access it. It's just always like passes right by it. Let's go back to the main setup menu. BitTorrent not available. Okay, so the browser, you got your very generic browser. The reason I have internet right now is because I'm using an Ethernet cable, so wired connection. You got your, very generic Google browser. Of course, there's a YouTube app, which takes forever to start up for some strange reason, and it's not the most technical app available. It's not that high tech. Even though AVerMedia advertises the ExtremeVision as having a dual-core processor, just starting up the YouTube app seems to take a while. I'm not sure why. Of course, I just want to point out while this is loading still, for the Western Digital Media Player, they don't specify what components they use internally. Okay, so in the same list, some of these things, you saw YouTube has a dedicated app. Facebook is not an app, for example. It just opens up the regular browser with the Facebook page. So it's pretty disappointing that they list these things, but half of them aren't even apps. So we'll just exit the browser. Of course, you can add your own bookmarks. Right here, customize. You can just add a URL and it'll be in, I don't know, this bookmark section, whatever you want to call it. Newsreader, you can enter, you can read the news, you can add your websites if you want. Still very simple looking. Now these are proper apps. These are apps that actually work, let's say Flickr. Again, it has a dual core processor, but it's kind of slow. In fact, when I powered it on, it takes about 20 seconds for the device to load up and start, and then about another 5 seconds just to load the weather that was in the corner. You'll see again, it took 5 seconds alone just to load that. So it's actually a pretty slow device, even though they advertise it trying to be fast, but it's actually not. So that's Flickr. Let's go back. And of course, the main part you guys want to see is the media player itself. So let's go to a USB stick I have. And now it does say it plays MTS file formats, which is a really rare file format. However, sometimes at random times, let me just put this down. Randomly, you'll get this like timestamp showing up here. In my review video, when I did play this exact same clip, there was a timestamp that showed up here. Now it's disappeared. So MTS does play back fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but the timestamp shows up here and you can't get rid of it. I don't know why it disappeared this time. This device is really random, just like how the Wi-Fi stopped working. MP4, it plays back just fine, 1080p. It's very fast, quick, clear. Of course, it plays MKV files. Again, 1080p, not a problem. It loads it really quick. Okay. Actually, that was 720p, my bad. Well, the MP4 clip was 1080. Okay, I don't know why it just flickered on me just now. That was bizarre. And of course, AVI with a DivX codec, it plays it just fine as well, not a problem. So media playback is fairly decent. But like I said, MTS is kind of odd that the timestamp isn't showing up this time, but it did before. So there's not much more to show you guys because those are all the functions. It's very, very limited. And AVerMedia is selling this refurbished for $150, which is extremely expensive and overpriced for this device because it's not worth it. Let's go into the Western Digital Media Player now. Okay, so this time we got the Western Digital Media Player up and running. Initially, you'll notice that's very nice, welcoming, and kind of beautiful. It makes you want to use it right away, whereas the ExtremeVision was kind of cold and dark looking. The startup time was about 7 seconds. However, plugging it in, like say you unplug it and then replug it in again, then the device takes forever to load up. But you shouldn't have to do that anyway. I mean, once you put it next to your TV, it's probably going to stay there permanently, right? So boot up time was about 7 seconds. However, when you plug in a USB stick for the first time, even with just 4 files, as you can see I have, it takes forever. It's really, really slow. It takes about 15 seconds just to read there's 4 files available. So, I mean, but once it is up and running and you got your USB stick plugged in and it reads it, then it's very fast. So let's go through some of the features. You got live TV, you got Sling Player, Hot Poppage. I don't have either one, so I can't use those, unfortunately. Actually, I should show you guys the settings first. Again, I'm not going to go through these because they're very generic. Some of them just will make this video too long. You got your regular audio, video, appearance. So basically, you can actually change the wallpaper in the background. You can actually change the theme itself. There are themes you can download, you can search through. So back to this. So you can, if you have a USB stick plugged in, right now I have no photos plugged in the USB stick. I have no music. but it knows that, hey, I got 4 videos. And if you just go to files, it lists everything that's currently in. So all music, videos, pictures, everything will be right there. This is where all the apps are, and unlike the ExtremeVision AVerMedia, these are actual dedicated apps. So let's say AccuWeather. I love this app. It's very simple but very effective and straight to the point. I love how it looks. Let's say Lifestyle. It's got a lot of neat features. So right now it's the middle of February and it's telling me that grass growing forecast is really poor. Bicycling forecast is poor, obviously because it's winter. This is with its faults though. There are some problems still. There are 2 YouTube apps. This is the old one, which they just took from the first generation USB media player from Western Digital. But here's the weird thing. I told you there's 2 YouTube apps. This is the old one they just took and put it in this USB player. Here's the new one. Look how fast that was. It's so clean. It looks like the other apps. It's like, you know, they're keeping consistency with their UI. Looks fantastic. Now I can't go through all these apps because it would take forever. But games, I'll show you probably the last feature. There's 2, but there's not 2 games. It's 2 game sections. So let's say Play Jam. 10 to 15 seconds to load up. This is what you get. Keep in mind that for most of these apps and games, you must have an internet connection. That should be pretty obvious, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. They're really simple games like, you know, Sudoku, nothing like high graphic intensive games, so don't expect anything like that. And you get your RS feed. I believe that's pretty much it, except I should actually play videos because that's the main purpose of a USB media player. Alright, so here's the strange thing. ExtremeVision advertises playing MTS file formats, but I told you that a random timestamp shows up. The Western Digital Media Player doesn't say it supports MTS file format, but it plays it and better. I have never gotten a timestamp that shows up here. It always just shows up full screen and clear as it is now. Also, you got MP4 file format. It's pretty quick, pretty responsive and fast, you know. I'm not going to go through the other 2 because they're given, they'll work. Okay, so to break down the comparison, in terms of physical design, the Western Digital Media Player wins hands down. It's smaller, it's well designed, the wireless adapter is built internally, and of course it has a USB port at the front. The ExtremeVision is clunky, big, overly sized for some bizarre reason. The wireless adapter is built externally, and if it breaks or something happens, you lose it, you gotta buy another one only from AVerMedia. In terms of pricing, the Western Digital Media Player is going for about $100 average on the market, brand new. The ExtremeVision refurbished on AVerMedia's own website is going for $150, and that's refurbished. And yet it doesn't have a quarter of the amount of options the Western Digital Media Player does. In terms of software design, the Western Digital Media Player, like I said, you can't download more apps. However, it's got pretty much what you would want. It's kind of like it turns your TV into a smart TV as close as possible. Let's put it that way. It does a pretty decent job, but it's still lacking the option to download more apps. But it plays files off the USB stick just fine. The AVerMedia has very limited options in general. It plays a lot of file formats, but it's kind of random. Like even MTS support has that random timestamp that I was telling you about. It shows up over here, whereas Western Digital plays every single file the same as the AVerMedia, but it has more functionality built in general. So the Western Digital is hands down the winner overall. So yeah, if you found this video useful, check out my website in the description below. Hit the like button, it does help. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.